good guys from the bad guys. If they're shooting at you, they're bad.
One could say that it was good that Thor: The Dark World underwhelmed because it lined us all up for the rope-a-dope blow to our nads that the Winter Soldier turned out to be. We had no expectations for this movie, even with this being an adaptation of one of Captain America's greatest comic stories. There were a lot of things that had us worried for its quality. We thought that this was going to be filler like The Dark World turned out to be, and ostensibly it looked like Marvel were sleepwalking through this. The first concern was the involvement of characters like Nick Fury and Black Widow. Usually in a solo outing, you expect the film to keep the focus on the main character, and once again, because Loki upstaged everyone in the last movie, you can understand our worry about this one. While we definitely loved Cap a lot more than we used to, we still didn't reach that real emotional pay dirt that he would inevitably strike. Meanwhile, the major cause for concern was that the two selected to direct this film were, on the whole, still untested with a film of this scale. Anthony and Joe Russo had built an impressive resume on television, directing episodes of Community, Arrested Development, and Happy Endings. However, their recent foray into motion pictures did not inspire confidence. Not even the solid casting of Anthony Mackie as the Falcon, or the promise of Bucky being a more vital character, was enough to build on audiences' expectations. Oh my god, you really can't judge a movie on expectations alone. It goes without saying, but this movie sucker punched the hell out of us. There was no way of knowing that this movie was going to rock the MCU as we knew it, but it did, right to its very core, and changed virtually everything that we had become comfortable with. It even messed with our heads when it came to certain sequel tropes. Naturally, I'm referring to Hydra. Like Cap, we assumed that Hydra had faded away along with the Red Skull because usually in franchises you kill the leader of an evil organization, the rest just dies out. So to find out that Hydra was allowed to grow like a virus inside S.H.I.E.L.D. while Cap was still frozen, well, that was just mind-shredding. We thought it was just a few traitorous upstarts inside S.H.I.E.L.D., but as soon as we saw Zola's face on that computer screen, we knew that the game had dramatically changed. In that instant, we realized that the stakes had increased exponentially. And what makes this twist even more genius was that all the comic fans thought that the big twist was going to be centered on the true identity of the Winter Soldier, which isn't really that much of a revelation considering that they flat out showed it in the trailers. So their focus was directed on an obvious revelation, opening them up for a massive shock. This, however, isn't the only aspect of the Winter Soldier that deserves praise. When it comes to the tone, the camera work, and the story, this feels less like a superhero film and more akin to a gritty spy thriller. The camera always makes it a point to showcase the stunt work and choreography of every fight scene, and the marriage of practical and CGI is virtually seamless. There's a reason the freeway chase and the street brawl is the action centerpiece of the film. It goes from car wrecks to bullet dodging, and finally a ferocious knife fight between Cap and the Winter Soldier. What makes it even better is that there's always an ever-present sense of imminent doom. One wrong step, one wrong maneuver could spell a swift demise. When Widow gets shot by the Winter Soldier, immediately you tense up, even though you can sense she's going to make it out of this, but the fact of the matter is, we've never seen Widow this vulnerable, and this woman faced down 7-foot aliens with twin Glocks and wrist tasers. Here, she's wounded, bleeding, and how often do you see Widow like this? This moment is just a little example of how far this movie pushes all the characters. The normally unflappable Nick Fury is mortally wounded and dancing on the edge of death. Cap, meanwhile, is still feeling the sting of being the man at a time. In the beginning, the only connection he has to his old life is currently convalescing in hospice with Alzheimer's, and then he finds out that his best friend is not only alive, but a brainwashed acolyte for the very enemies Cap sacrificed his old life to extinguish. This creates a wholly unique conflict for Cap. Does he try to save his friend, or should he accept that Bucky is gone forever and bury him along with everything that Hydra has figuratively tentacle hen-tied? These are the sort of conflicts that prove to audiences that Marvel was no longer content with telling just superhero stories. They wanted to inject genuine human emotion and hardcore conflict into a genre that, up till now, only dabbled in it. The impact the Winter Soldier had in the grand scheme of the MCU cannot be overstated. Whenever anyone does their own less to more scales, it's pretty much a guarantee that this film will wind up in their top 5, maybe even their top 3. This film had such a potent impact on the MCU that it even affected Marvel's properties outside of the movies. In fact, Marvel's first TV series, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., was struggling to hold on to audiences with its first season. Many audiences were growing tired with the show's lack of focus, but then The Winter Soldier happened, and because S.H.I.E.L.D. was so closely tied with the movies, the show's quality shot through the roof and immediately gained new life with audiences. The Hydra revelation was so massive to the series that it carried over into the next 2 seasons, and made the show a worthy companion to the movies, effectively making Winter Soldier the movie so good it saved a TV series. Before The Winter Soldier, the MCU was shelved into the well-made fluff category. This was the movie that opened the audiences to the possibility that Marvel's efforts as storytellers should not be taken for granted.